Hello, BookTube, from both of us. That little mail I want to go through with you. There are only 4 packages, but 2 of them are boxes. And the first 2 packages are very big. They're very bulky. So they might have multiple books in them. They're big and heavy. So let's start with those. Those are not boxes. So let's start with those and see what we have here. Oh, multiple books. Multiple books. Very good. All right, so what is this first one? Let's see how we do. Yeah. Okay, well, the first one is right up Steve's alley. That's for sure. The first one is by Jaden Carroll with illustrations by Molly Dyson, and it is called Definitely the Best Dogs of All Time. Is that you? Hmm? So what have we got here? Is this illustrated? It is. It's illustrated. Alright, so I already love it. So this comes out, oh no. Oh. This comes out on May the 7th. May the 7th. Okay, alright. What have we got here? Since the dawn of time, dogs have been the #1 source of joy in this world. And this is a book about the very best of them. And that first line is wrong, of course. Dogs weren't around at the dawn of time. And the alternate, if you were rewriting that, if you were a copy editor and you were rewriting that, you might want to say, since the dawn of human civilization, dogs have been the #1 source of joy in this world. And that line also would be wrong. There is very, very strong evidence that partnership, not domestication, but partnership with wild canines was one of the first things that Homo sapiens sapiens did. Long before there was civilization, long before there was anything, long before there was language, agriculture, art, controlled forest burning, warfare, anything. Long before that. There's strong evidence in the historical record, in the archaeological record, to substantiate a claim that I have had all along, which is that humans wouldn't be here without dogs. That to say that there is a category called domesticated animals, and it includes sheep and pigs and cattle and cats and dogs and horses, is completely wrong. It's completely wrong. It's not that humans domesticated that small category of animals. It's that humans and dogs domesticated the rest of them. Dogs have been around since the beginning, since there were humans. And I'd be willing to bet that dogs were also a significant part, that relatively quasi-domesticated canines were a significant part of most other human species as well, before humans extirpated them. But let's see, what was May the 7th? That's hundreds of books ago for me. Anyway, that's all right. Powerful dogs, mythical dogs, heroic dogs, talented dogs, literary dogs, dogs who changed the course of history, and dogs who set the internet ablaze. From the deeply misunderstood Cerberus, the multi-headed hound of Hades, to Rin Tin Tin and Duke, the thrice-elected mayor of Cormorant, Minnesota, who is an actual dog. Minnesotans, I tell you. With words by Jaden Carroll and illustrations by Molly Dyson, the best dogs of all times tells the heartwarming, absurd, and informative stories of the most exceptional hounds to have bounded across the earth, their majestic tongues flowing in the breeze, and the humans who love them. Okay. All right, well, this is from May. I am certainly going to enjoy it, but, well, we'll see. If I really enjoy it, then I suppose... So all of the... Yes, okay, all of the usuals will be in here. Okay, including President Kennedy's Irish setter. Okay, all right, so we started off really well. We started off with dogs. Don't get much better than that. Let's see what this next one is. Okay, this is a novel. This comes out in November. That's much better. Early November. This is by Andrea Goldsmith, and it is called Invented Lives. I want to be able to see the book, but I also want you to be able to see Frida Bean. You have to be able to see the book and the bean. Let's see here. What happens when you leave everything behind for a country you know nothing about? I have done that many times, but not to live in that country. Not to live permanently in that country. Just when I traveled for real. I didn't travel with groups. I didn't travel with GPS. I didn't travel with the American consulate on my speed dial. I didn't travel any of that. I left for other countries on my travels, assuming that I would not come back, that I would make the most of them. It would be much harder to do that now, because now I would have to leave large chunks of my own life behind. Back when I traveled, I took my dogs with me. So, and I took the books I Can't Live Without with me, and that was that. It is the mid-1980s. In Australia, stay-at-home wives jostle with want-it-all feminists, while AIDS threatens the sexual freedom of everyone. On the other side of the world, the Soviet bloc is in turmoil. Mikhail Gorbachev has been in power for a year when 24-year-old book illustrator Kalina Kogan leaves Leningrad, forbidden ever to return. As a Jew, she's inherited several generations' worth of Russia's chronic anti-Semitism. As a Soviet citizen, she's unprepared for Australia and its easygoing ways. Easygoing ways that I don't know anything about, since all the traveling that I did not include Australia. I've never been to Australia. I've met many, many Australians, and every single one of them has been an absolutely sterling commercial for the worth of their country. I don't think I've ever met an Australian visiting the United States or visiting any other country where I encountered one. I don't think I've ever met an Australian I didn't immediately like. And the way they talk about their country is not pie-eyed patriotism, but there's a deep amount of genuinely unforced, rough-and-tumble affection. I think, in other words, I would really like the place, despite the gigantic killer sharks, the gigantic killer crocodiles, the killer flora and fauna of all other kinds, and the fact that it's an enormous island and the outer rim is habitable and all the inside is a hellscape straight out of Hades. I still think I would like it. I guess I'll never know. Once settled in Melbourne, Galena is befriended by Sylvie and Leonard Morrow and their adult son Andrew. I've got a cool soundtrack. It's the middle of the morning, and there's a stoplight right up there, so if people are driving around with the incredibly obnoxious choice of having their car stereo blasting, then I'm going to get a sample of what is ruining their eyes, what's giving them tinnitus all day long. Let's see here. The Morrow marriage of 30 years balances on secrets. Leonard is a man with conflicted desires and passions, while Sylvie chafes against the confines of domestic life. Their son Andrew, a successful mosaicist, hence the cover, is a deeply shy man. He is content with his life and work until he finds himself increasingly drawn to Galena. Okay, so is the author actually Australian? Let's see. Andrea Goldsmith originally trained as a speech pathologist and was a pioneer in the development of communication aids for people unable to speak. Her first novel, Gracious Living, was published in 1989. This was followed by Modern Interiors, Facing the Music, Under the Knife, and Prosperous Thief, which was shortlisted for the 2003 Miles Franklin Literary Award. Reunion was published in 2009, and The Memory Trap in 2015. Her literary essays have appeared in Mean Gene, Australian Book Review, the Australian Book Review. I sent them a letter, an email, asking if I could review for them. Never heard back. Best Australian Essays and numerous anthologies, and she lives in Melbourne. Okay, so she's an Australian author. So those of you who are in Australia could probably tell me all about her. This certainly sounds interesting in a made-up stories kind of way. And then what's this next one? What's the... Oh my! Oh goodness gracious! Oh man! Okay, these must all be from the same publisher. This is by Mary Hoban, and it's called An Unconventional Wife: The Life of Julia Sorrell Arnold. And this comes out in January. So as much as it intrigues me, I will not be getting to it until then. Let's see here. Julia Sorrell was an original, a colonial belle from Tasmania, vivacious and heart-warmed. Julia's marriage to Tom Arnold in 1850 propelled her into one of the most renowned families in England, and into a circle that included Lewis Carroll and George Eliot. Her eldest daughter became a best-selling novelist, while her grandchildren included Aldous Huxley, author of A Brave New World. Thanks very much. I think we knew who he was. I guess I shouldn't be sarcastic, because these pub sheets are aimed at everybody, Not just at us, on BookTube. So, on BookTube, we don't need to be told that Aldous Huxley wrote Brave New World, but probably lots of other people do. So, and the evolutionary biologist Julian Huxley. With these family connections, Julia is a mostly silent present in many documented and famous lives. When extracted from her background of colonial life, extracted from the covers of Marriage and Family Life, her story reveals an extraordinary woman, a paradox who defied convention as much as she embraced it. I've never read a biography of this one. What began as a marriage born of desire soon turned into a relationship riven by discord. Tom's sudden decision to become a Catholic and Julia's refusal to convert with him plunged their lives into a crisis wherein the great love for each other would be pitted against their profoundly different understandings of marriage and religion. Told with a pace, depth, and psychological richness of a great novel, don't go spoiling it, why not a great biography? An Unconventional Life is a riveting biography that shines a shaft of light on a hidden but captivating life. And the author, Mary Hoban, is also from Melbourne. She's also Melbourne-based. Okay, so that's two Australian authors, two people who know every street and corner and park of a city where I have never been. That is very strange. That is a very strange feeling for me. How I would like to see Australia. I would like to spend a year there and get to know it. But anyway, so this comes out in January. It comes out in early January, which makes me... I always worry when I see that as a pub date on a book. Because who's going to remember it at the end of 2020? When it comes time for year's best lists or anything like that. Books in the last week of December and the first week of January tend to be forgotten. I won't forget it. But nevertheless. All right, so now we have this second big package. Very heavy and also feels lumpy, like it has multiple books. So it might be the same people that sent the first one. Let's see what this top one is. Oh, okay. All right, great. Fantastic. Oh, these are nicer than I thought too. Okay, so you are August. Okay, all right, you are August. You don't have a pub sheet, and neither do you. Okay, all right, so it's the August book that we're talking about, but the publisher really came through. All right, so we'll start at the new one, and we'll make our way back. This is The Hit by Nadia Del Buono. Nadia Del Buono, The Hit. Sepia tone cover, man running along a street. And this is the third Leone Scarmaccio thriller. Leone Scarmaccio. The investigation of a hit and run in Rome leads Detective Leone Scarmaccio on a deadly journey to confront his mafia past. While he is called to investigate an apparent hit and run, it seems like a job for a traffic officer, not one of Rome's top detectives. But when the victims are kidnapped on their way to the hospital, and Scarmaccio discovers that they are the family of one of the country's top television executives, the infamous Mickey Prioretti, things start to get interesting. Everyone, it seems, from Premier League footballers to jilted starlets and even Calabrian mafia, has an axe to grind. As Scarmaccio delves into the underbelly of Italian show business, he discovers a possible connection between this investigation and his own mafia father's right-hand man. To solve the case, he must travel home to Calabria, but can he finally banish the ghosts of the past? And this author was educated at Queen's College, Oxford, and she studied history and German, and she lives in Italy. And this is a detective novel set in Rome. I've read a couple of detective novels set in Rome. It seems to bring out the best in people who really want to make the location act as a character, to make the location much more than just a backdrop. But I had a feeling when I saw this, and I think I saw this in a catalog, and I thought, well, I'd love to read it, but it's the third book in a series. I've never heard of the series before, and obviously the character has a character growth arc because he's the son of a mafia leader who becomes a cop. So I asked, in my diffident, shy way, whether or not I could have copies of the first two books, and here they are. So we have The American and The Few. So those are the first two. Leone Scarmaccio thrillers. So is this number one? Is this number one? Well, this is 2014, and then the American is 2015. Okay, so The Few is the first one, and he is the Detective Leone Scarmaccio is the son of a former leading mafioso who's turned his back on his family business and has joined the Rome police force. He may be the last honest man in Italy. So I have a little catching up to do. The hit is out already. This came out in this country in August, I believe. Oh no, the August pub date is scratched out on the back. So this might not be out yet, or it might have come out much later. Okay, the early August pub date is on the sheet as well, but it's been crossed out, so it's not that. And I have a little time. I want to read these two first. Always in the mood for a police procedural if it's done really well. Always in the mood to read about Rome, since I loved Rome. Visited it many, many, many times, and loved it. And I'm always in the mood also to discover a new series. I didn't know about this series. So, okay, great. So thanks to the generosity of the publisher, I have the whole series now. So I will start on The Few today. And then we have the boxes, and then we'll be done. So let's see what this first one is. What have we here, Bean? What have we here? What is that? Okay, the first one is from the folks at Princeton University Press. This is Martin Flaherty, and it's called Restoring the Global Judiciary, Why the Supreme Court Should Rule in U.S. Foreign Affairs. And this comes out in early September. This is a September book. The list of President Trump's executive actions on foreign affairs grows by the day. It's true. Executive actions. And, 6 years ago, I was saying to anybody who would listen, President Obama is faced with an openly obstructionist Congress. You've got Mitch McConnell saying, our goal is to say no to the president. Not to serve our constituents, not to help the country, but to say no to anything he wants. Our answer to anything he wants is no. If he proposes better benefits for veterans, we oppose them. If he opposes emergency relief for a state that was the source of a radioactivity outbreak, we oppose it. Anything he wants, our answer is no. And that's got to be frustrating, of course, if you were born aloft into office the way Obama was, on a genuine populist surge. You don't want to get into the Oval Office and suddenly be told nothing you do is going to work because your Congress is going to ignore their duties to their constituents in favor of telling you no. They hate you that much because you're a black man. So he started making heavy use of executive orders. George W. Bush had done that before him, and in all cases it just made me cringe. Because what is an executive order? Is it a law? Is it the will of the people? Is it up for referendum by any kind of voting majority? No. No, it's just a dictatorial pronouncement. And that first sentence here is true. Trump is not faced by an obstructionist Congress in any way except that most of the stuff that he wants to do is illegal. And I guess there are some people in the Republican-controlled Senate who are still worried about their Wikipedia entries down the line, or what they're going to tell their grandchildren on their deathbed. So they won't actually enable a full slate of illegal things. They're enabling plenty of illegal things. The president is steering national events towards his private businesses. That's completely illegal, completely unconstitutional. And he does it anyway, and the Senate lets him. They could easily stop him, and they let him. But let's see what the rest of the sheet has to say about this book, shall we? Restrictions on immigration, travel bans, sanctions on Venezuela and North Korea, border wall funding, limits on trade with China, the reversal of the closure of Guantanamo Bay, withdrawals from the Paris Climate Accord, and more. Notice the one thing all of those have in common. President Obama. They all have President Obama in common. There's nothing that Donald Trump wants to do except erase President Obama from history. And he only wants to do that. I mean, people theorize all the time, about right-wing radio talk show influence on Donald Trump and their talking points. They talk all the time about Obama mocking him at the press dinner, that famous time. But really, it's racism. That's all it is. For 8 years, Donald Trump was stewing in an acid personal turmoil that a black man had more authority than he did, had authority over him. his goal since day one of his administration is to eliminate everything that President Obama ever accomplished in any way. So the Iran nuclear deal, get rid of it. The Paris Climate Accord, get rid of it. Affordable care for millions of Americans, get rid of it. A humane program to protect the so-called dreamers, the DACA program, get rid of it. He lied on the campaign trail about having better alternatives in place, didn't have any. All those things are gone now with no alternatives. The strengthening that President Obama did for the environment, for protected species, for drilling and fracking, all gone. Not because Donald Trump has any opinions on these things one way or another. He has never had any contact with the natural world, and he never will. It's because he hates this one man. But that's what all of those listed executive orders have been about. But if we could get back to the pub sheet, that would be nice. The founders, who wrote a separation of power into the Constitution to avoid this type of scenario, would be shocked. And with federal judges increasingly reluctant to challenge executive power, there is no relief in sight. How did we get here, and what happens next? In this groundbreaking new book, Martin Flaherty, professor of Princeton's Woodrow Wilson School, explains how the court failed to keep up with the U.S. expanding role on the global stage, and what the future might look like if the judicial branch does not reclaim its constitutional right to authority in foreign affairs. Okay. What constitutional right might that be? Do you mind telling me what constitutional right the U.S. Supreme Court has in foreign affairs? I guess I'll read the book to find out. This is soon. It's a September book. But that's confusing. What role does the U.S. Supreme Court have in foreign affairs? I guess I'll find out. And I'll find out soon, because it's the September book. Ready? Oh. Ready for another one. This is the last of them. And I don't know, maybe there'll be more mail today. You never know. Do you want that? Ha. All right, what have we got here? Oh, there's another one from Princeton. Great. This will be a September book, I'm sure. Yes, it is. Good Lord. Okay, this is by Chester Finn and Andrew Scanlon, and it's called Learning in the Fast Lane: The Past, Present, and Future of Advanced Placement. Healthy skepticism about standardized testing and government-mandated curricula abounds. There's been a fair amount of backlash to Common Core standards and No Child Left Behind. But the Advanced Placement Program has stood the test of time. It's the platinum yardstick against which we measure success in the classroom and determine college readiness. The benefits are well documented: intellectual stimulation for motivated students of all socioeconomic backgrounds, professional development for teachers, and positive reflection on school districts. So why are some universities beginning to offer alternate paths to matriculation, like dual enrollment programs? Bet I can answer that question, but we'll see what the authors have to say. In this book, the authors argue that AP classes still have currency in higher education. Their comprehensive history of the program from its humble beginnings in 1952, oh, this is part of the history, good, to the present day is essential for educators, policymakers, and students who want to understand why we use AP as a shorthand for the pinnacle of academic achievement. Okay, all right, great, fantastic. I never even spared a thought for AP programs. Okay, so that comes out in September. So I've got a bunch of September stuff here. So we have Learning in the Fast Lane. We have Restoring the Global Judiciary. I do not remember there ever being a global judiciary, so that is a little strange. For 2020, we have An Unconventional Life. Let's see here. I think this is also 2020. Is this Goldsmith thing also 2020? Did I say? No, November. Invented Lives is in November. Australian fiction. Then we have The Best Dogs of All Time. A fun little cartoony picture book about notable dogs in history and myth. And then a police procedural thriller series. New to me. The latest one, the one that's out soon, I would imagine, is The Hit. And these are by Nadia Del Bono. The Hit is the latest one, and then the two before it are The American and The Few. And they are about a celebrated detective in Rome who is the son of a celebrated mafia leader. So that's interesting right there. So there you go. The Bean is heavy at work at her cardboard. And that is our mail for today. I don't know if there'll be any more. If there is, you'll be the first to know. And those of you who are wondering, I've had half a dozen emails by this point, of people saying, if Frida wants to be in bed or over on the chair or on the floor, you really shouldn't force her to come up on the couch. I don't actually force her to come up on the couch. The reason that you heard me encouraging her to jump up here the other day is because she has this thing about running on the smooth floor of this room. It unnerves her. She needs encouragement to do it. But she was hovering and standing there, wanting that encouragement. If I encourage her, then she will do it. But she likes to be near me. That's all there is to it. That's not actually any stage prop coercion. Believe me, you've gone through thousands of videos without any props at all. She just likes to be right up here near me. Oh, baby, we're talking about you. But anyway, that's the mail for today. Believe it or not, I have more bookish stuff to talk about, so I may be back. Sorry about that, book 2.